Good afternoon, everyone. The special called meeting of the South San Antonio Independent School District Budget Committee meeting will now come to order. Today is Wednesday, May 13th, 2020, and the time is 4 o'clock. Did you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay, and we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, Texas Pledge, and all that.
Okay, yes, I'm here. I can lead you guys to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Bow your heads in prayer, please. Dear God, thank you for our health and this opportunity to meet virtually and physically. Please help us to come together and make this decision reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions and help us build a team that has love and respect. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Call to action. All students enjoy successful education experiences, empowering them to make decisions while enriching their lives in the future they create. Mr. Rodriguez, if we could please have a roll call for the record.
Yes, ma'am. Michelle, thank you, please.
Gilbert Rodriguez.
Present.
Connie Prado.
Present.
Kevin Roscoe.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. The first item on the agenda is citizens to be heard. Mr. Roscoe.
I do not have any emails from citizens to be heard at the time.
Mr. Rodriguez, I hear an echo. Do you all, whomever has headphones on?
Mine's muted.
Can you hear me now, okay?
No, Mr. Hammond is not muted.
There we go. Okay.
I muted him from my computer, but if he unmutes, it's going to happen again. Just FYI.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. The first item on the agenda is discussion and possible action. Item number 1, the 2019-2020 budget update. Ms. Sendejo.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. President George. And
I think you're muted.
We do have a
Ms. Sendejo, you're muted.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me now? Good afternoon, Mr. Rodriguez, committee members, staff. Thank you. Our first action and possible discussion and possible action is our 2019-2020 budget update. We do have several areas that we would concentrate on. One in particular, student data, tax collections, revenue, and expenditures. We do have Mr. Baum here, and I know that he'll speak specifically to these agenda items. And I will more than likely give us a big picture on the student data. Mr. Baum?
Yes, good afternoon to everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with each of you and discuss with each of you the 2019-2020 budget update. We've got several documents that have been uploaded, but those are mostly backup. I just want to discuss a few of those items with you and do the same for 2021. And then I prepared a comparative document that we will get to see how our next year numbers are stacking up against the current year numbers. So we did receive our preliminary tax data. I had mentioned before that we thought there would be some delay. The Bexar County Central Appraisal District did a amazing job of getting that turned around with all the challenges that they face. But again, that's preliminary data. We are estimating that we will trend at the same 6% that we talked about, 6% increase in tax values, also 6% increase in revenue collections. The 2019-2020 near final summary of finance. That is the calculations of all of our revenue figures. Again, I won't bore you with all of the details of that, but you have that document. And then I have a summary document on that, again, that we will compare the current fiscal year and what we are anticipating for the next fiscal year. You do have a document there on the 1920 budget report year to date. If we could pull that up. You also, those of you that are present, have a hard copy in your file for you to look at. This committee recommended to the board in earlier action that we amend our revenue adjustment. The board ratified that recommendation. So we did reduce our revenue expectation, and then we have made several adjustments to our expenditure budget, which we will talk about more in detail as we go. But this board adopted a balanced budget, and then we had to come back and amend a couple of times on the expenditure side. There will be some more amendments there potentially. And the expenditures will definitely exceed the revenue budget, but that doesn't mean that is the way the year will finish. We have, in the way of expenditures, we are still working on this, but we feel like we will be over budgeted in the way of salaries, meaning that more money is present in the budget than we will actually spend. So the disparity is not as great as it will seem at this point. But there are a lot of things to do. We are in the fifth month of our fiscal year, so we still have June to follow May, and then July and August before we close the budget year out. So there's a lot of things that have to happen with the current budget. But we are trying to wrap up current expenditures and draw those to a close, and we'll be able to provide more and more accurate information as we go along. Everything is trending as normal on our revenue and expenditure side. We are a little bit lagging behind on our tax collections, but again, there are still multiple months in the current fiscal year, so we'll keep you apprised of that. Any questions on the 2019 or 2020 budget thus far?
Any members, any questions?
No.
No, sir.
Again, we are taking steps internally to bring this budget year to a close. At the same time, we are working on the 2021 budget.
Can you mute there, Mr. Baum? I know that's going to make a factor. To the rest of our committee, in regards to student data, I know that Mr. Baum and in many of our conversations we've had, and by far one of the areas that we're consistently having conversations about is the student enrollment. What are student enrollments going to look like next year? How are we engaging our students? What contact are we having with our families and our community consistently on a weekly basis? For the committee, our board of trustees do receive updates. This past Friday, we did send percentages, but we did have a PowerPoint of some documents that you can see for each of our campuses and the number of students that we're still working on contacting through these next 3 weeks. And it does provide us the campus name and the number of students that have not been contacting. Based on the trend and what Ms. Baum has shared, we have seen about a 350 to 400 loss of enrollment annually, and the goal is that we are not there next year. So we'll speak to that, factoring in the potential decrease in enrollment and the sustainability of our enrollment. So at this time, we have not had any contact. And again, it's broken down by campus. If you had the opportunity to review that, those particular slides. In addition to that, we did provide specific steps that we're taking. Mr. Cavazos, alongside Mr. Dominguez and the team, continuously now, we're literally driving our buses from home to home, make that contact. It's especially clearly our seniors that still have some projects and some grades to commit to prior to graduation. Just really wanted to share that with you because it gives us somewhat of a solid number. And although a few weeks ago it was higher, we're happy to see that we're continuously making those contacts. And now every administrator that I can speak to about, they are making those home visits at this time when you see those last sets of numbers before us. So 176 is what we're still pending, particularly 76 at our high school out of 2,400 there. So yes, we do not want to leave any student uncontacted in any way. So now we're being very specific on that approach as well. Just wanted to share that as we begin thinking of what our 2020-2021 budget will look like. Thanks, Mr. Baum. Anything you want to share there? You're good? Good? Yes, we can move to the next one, sir.
Yes, I do. Mr. Baum, under revenues, have we heard anything on what our revenue will look like from the state this coming year?
You're talking about the current school year, the 2021 year. Yes, ma'am, we have, of course, the next item we discussed is the 2021 budget. I'm happy to talk about the future considerations that's going on in that budget. The last word of the budget year is which. So we'll talk a little bit, we'll allow to we'll talk a little bit about the 2021, and then we'll compare back even yet again to the 1920. So we do have data for you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Just will remind you, it's early and there's lots of moving parts, but every day is a day that we get closer.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the 2020-2021 budget update. Ms. Sandego?
Yes, sir. Somewhat similar format, information with the budget assumptions, the ADA, the property values and tax collections, alongside the conversations we've been having about compensation plan.
Oh, yes, sir.
Well, let's repeat that again. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I believe you did call for the second agenda, the 2020-2021 budget update. Very similar, you received particular background information in regards to these set of items, and I will refer back to Mr. Baum on them, and then we will answer any questions as far as an overview. Some of them are merely just that, an update, and some do have specific numbers that continue to come in day to day. Mr. Baum?
Yes. It's the funding comparison. I am dropping it in your email right now. I gave you a hard copy, but I did not give you the presentation copy. So it is on its way, Scott, right now.
Okay, we are all good. Again, the 2021 budget cycle, we have given you an updated budget calendar, both in your packet and online, I believe, but it just solidified the committee dates. This committee obviously is meeting for the 5th 6 weeks period today as scheduled on the budget calendar. And we also will convene again on June the 11th for the 6 weeks budget committee meeting, and we'll just continue to ratchet this budget process in. There is a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work that's going on with staff. Ms. Seaman and her team are working on staffing for the coming year, and Miss Veronica Ramos and her team are working on the staffing costs. So I appreciate the work that is going on between the payroll department and the HR department to get good budget estimates on that. It's 85% of our budget, and you've heard me mention a couple of times that we missed our salary budget by some measure this year, and we're in a not to make excuses at all, but we recently did a software conversion, and it's sort of an immature process, if I may go there. And so we think that we will continue to get more and more accurate as we do that. And as we are facing some of the challenges that we want as little variance as possible. So we hope to bring you a payroll budget, the salary cost of our budget at our next meeting, and have that drilled down, because again, with that being 85% of our budget, it is critical that we be super accurate there. So that is a daily pursuit that we have. We're working very hard on that. Campus and departmental budget reviews are ongoing. That takes time to sit down with each one of them, and it's not just a process that we want to sit down and check a box. We want to work through that. We want those conversations to be meaningful, and they are. And as a somewhat of an outsider, I've enjoyed the opportunity to visit with the principals and find things out about their campus and what their needs are. And we'll talk about some of those needs as we go on in today's discussion. But it's important that we bring them to the table, give credence to their ideas, and continue to refine our budget until we have something that everybody is pleased with. Ms. Prilo asked the question about the 2021 revenue, and we spent a considerable amount of time in our last budget committee meeting, and we talked about the assumptions that we would use as we entered into this budget year. We talked about an ADA assumption, tax collections, values. We talked about our comp ed number, and I still feel good. In a moment, we will look at a funding comparison, and there will be some what if scenarios to close that. But this group collectively agreed that we felt comfortable assuming a 400 student decline in our ADA, and that was simply looking at trend data. We don't know. Nobody has a crystal ball to tell us how COVID-19 is going to impact our student counts. So we'll look at trend. I think our Department of Academics and their team have done an amazing job of reaching out to students. You hear concerns about engagement across every district. You pick any district you want, and it's a new learning style. It's an alternative learning style, and the most difficult part for me when I was a classroom teacher was differentiating instruction for all of the different learning types that you have. I can only imagine what our teachers are facing in an online environment right now of differentiating instructions. But they are professionals. I have no doubt that we will get that done. But our team has done a great job, as Ms. Sendejo said, of identifying where the students are, what they're involved in, and 2% of our students are kind of the outliers right now that we're looking for. So we have to feel good about that. We can't assume that that 2% is gone, and we won't assume that 2% is gone. But we will maintain our trend until we have reason to do something otherwise, and that's why we have estimated that we will see a 400 student decline in our ADA. The beauty of this process is we are still early, and as we move on, if we see a reason to decrease that expectation of loss, we will certainly do so, because we know two things for sure, that our students cannot learn unless they are present. It's impossible to teach a kid that you can't get in front of in one way or another, and it's impossible to get funding for a student that you don't have in front of you in one form or another. So the dollars are not as important as student learning, but they are critical as we talk about the budgeting process. Okay, you have a document in your folder for those that are present and those that are online. Mr. Lalaman, did you receive that document in the email? Okay, outstanding. This is a funding comparison, and we looked at some of the critical elements. You look at the refined ADA, and you see the 2019-2020 number followed by the 2020-2021 number, and you see the exact 400 student variance there. On the weighted ADA, we're anticipating a variance of 581.56. State property values, which we know go into the calculation of our revenue, we see about $112 million increase. Now, state values are used to determine what your local share should be, and then you collect on your local values to collect what that share is. So both elements, both state property values in the comptroller's office, property tax division does a study of our property values that is independent of what Bexar County Appraisal District does. And it's kind of a double blind test. Each of them do their own valuation and then they compare them. And as long as they're within 5% of each other, there's no further action taken. If there's a greater variance than that, the state becomes concerned if their values are higher than what the Central Appraisal District is doing. So they will encourage the Central Appraisal District to prove their numbers up, and it goes through an audit process. But as long as they're within that 5% variance, we're in good shape, or they're in good shape. But both of those contribute to the funding formula. The next item that you see is the state compression rate. Part of House Bill 3 was the further compression of property taxes. Every homeowner, although they might not have seen a decrease in actual taxes, the tax rate that they are paying from a school tax or a M&O tax standpoint was compressed. So you take your compressed rate of $1 and you compress that down to 93 cents. Then we added back in the 4 golden pennies that they are referred to get an M&O tax rate of 97 cents. As you look at the 2021 data, you see that there is a further round of compression, and they are compressing the dollar compressed rate that we talked about. They are compressing it by a factor of 0.8992, and then you add in those 4 golden pennies, and you end up with a compressed M&O tax rate of 93.92. So, what are our options with that tax rate? Well, you could always make a decision to lower that tax rate, but you can't increase that tax rate without a tax ratification election. I know this board is very familiar with that, but our compressed M&O tax rate for 2021 is 0.9392. You look at the INS tax rate, which is your interest and sinking tax rate. It's what is used to pay our debt. Our board established an INS rate last year of 48 cents, and we will assume the same 48 cents at this point. We have not done anything with our debt service budget. We will work on that more as we go, and we'll bring that to you at another time. But you see the total tax rate for the current year is $1.45 per $100 of valuation. Well, just given the fact that we further compress that, the tax rate for next year would be $1.41.92 if we can extend that out. So there is about a 3-cent tax reduction on the M&O side that happens because of further compression related to House Bill 3. So the $1.45 tax rate last year, or in the current year, generates almost $7 million. And because of increased values, even though the M&O rate is lowering, we still should see an increase of about $658,000 in local tax collections. So property values are going up about 6%. The tax rate is dropping, but it's not dropping at that same 6% rate. So rate goes down, but we still should collect more dollars that go into the formula. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So you see that you also see that our INS tax collections, if we tax at the same rate, we should see an increase of about $524,000 that would be used to service our debt. The next item is the basic allotment. The basic allotment is showing at this point to remain the same in both years of the biennium. And so all of this rolled in. The Foundation School Fund, you see last year was in the current year, my apologies, was $50.8 million. In the coming year, that should be about almost $4 million. So you see a decrease there of $4.4 million. It's directly attributable to loss of student enrollment. Okay, there's no other factor at play as it relates to the state portion of our funding. So you look at that figure, and then you add the tax collections gain, the additional monies that we should collect tax on of $658,000. You see an M&O variance of $2.8 million in a reduction of year-over-year figures. So that's what the loss of 400 students will result in. It is mitigated a little bit by the increase in tax collections. So still 2.8 million is a tough pill to swallow in your budget. So what happens? We're estimating a decrease of 400 ADA. What happens if we only lose 300 ADA? Well, the loss that we would realize, or the reduction in revenue that we would realize, would be just short of $2 million. If we only lost 200 students, it would be a little over $1 million that we lost. If we lost 100 students, and this is a decrease in ADA, but also their associated weights. You know, it's not just looking at the ADA, it's the comp ed allotment and the bilingual allotment and all of those weights. So these are weighted figures. But if we only were to lose 100 students in ADA, we would see a loss of about $216,000. And then if we remained exactly the same, if we ended up with the same 7,430.293 in refined ADA, we would actually see a formulaic gain of $1 million. We know that that's very highly unlikely, but I did want to incrementalize that to show you what the incremental loss was as our loss in ADA went down. So what questions can I answer regarding the funding comparison between years?
Sure, I have one.
Yes.
Dr. Baum. What impact will actual tax collections and the economic downturn that's probably happening, how will that affect this budget, and what kind of accommodations are we making if our rate of collections decreases significantly?
That is a great question. And formerly, one of the things that House Bill 3 did was they started using current values, both from a state level and a local value. Formerly, you always used last year's state value and this year's local values, or the levy that it would generate. So formulaically, and I will run some metrics on that. But as our local revenue goes down, our state revenue should go up to mitigate that. But on the subject of that, we talked briefly about it last time. Our tax values are really established the 1st of January. So COVID-19 should not impact the values. We should see them trend normally, but I think it absolutely will impact people's ability to repay those taxes. So it's a great question. So next time we meet, I will have some amounts that we can toggle through and look at what that impact is going to be. I don't feel it's going to be hugely significant. And what happens if taxes are not paid? Then it goes into a delinquent status, and you know, ideally they're collected at some point, and you realize those in the year that they are collected. But it's a great question, and something that we will address as we go along.
And so you're not seeing that have a huge impact on our overall budget at the
I don't
time?
feel like it will at this point. But again, I will give some specific examples of, you know, if our collections go from 98% down to 93%, this is what will happen. But that's an excellent consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Rasco. Ms. Prado?
Mr. Baum?
Yes.
Since we have 3 months left, can you, I guess, guesstimate, what is our collection rate as of now?
Let's see here. I can run a report on that. If you'll excuse me just 1 second, I'll pull that up and give you the exact amount collected. And Miss Claudita is sitting in her desk right now laughing at me because she's wondering how I'm going to pull this off. And if she wants to chime in, I am more than happy for her to chime in.
She's on.
I know she is.
On.
This is where she hits that little telephone button and starts talking. It's revenue code 5711. I will tell you that. So let's see what we're going to pull up here. You text her and ask her if she has that.
I'm on the phone with her, Jeff. She's looking at it right now. She's looking it up right now.
Michelle said she's on the phone.
Okay, perfect. How about we come back to you when we get that in just a minute?
Just an estimate would be good, just to give us an idea.
We will have it. Yes, ma'am.
What is it gonna look like in 3 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I do know that our main collection months are, kind of a lot of people will pay in December, and then certainly January and February, and then it starts tailing off. Last month we only had a couple of $100,000 of collections. So we're really in the lean months from a collection standpoint. So that number should be telling.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any further questions, committee members? I just have a couple of remarks. I mean, certainly we can't control what impact COVID's going to have in any of this, and the trending data on enrollment. It just screams at me, for the past couple of years. So I know that we're making every effort and looking at every opportunity we can to address that. It's screaming right at us. So I have full confidence that we'll mitigate. We'll level that out at some point sooner rather than later. So
I'd like to make a comment to what you're sharing, Mr. Rodriguez, because you're right. And I know just from us preparing preparing in 1920 for 2021, and just our registration process will speak to what you're speaking to. Honestly, it's a growth mindset, a shift mindset. What I've learned, we have patterns that, well, this is how we've always done certain processes, right. Not maybe perhaps taking some time to run that analysis to give us those trends. We know what those trends have been, and now how are we countering based on those trends? So one in particular has been that we've been able to start our registration so much earlier. So it gives us that awareness, working with our principals to ensure, and this is it. I know that last week I did send a message out, but save your seat at South San. Right. We have to save these seats, and right. If anybody else wants to join our seats, they're there, and that's what we need. So it's going to be a collective effort in order for us to continue, even the 176 out of the 8,500 that are currently enrolled. Another positive, I would say, trend up until COVID. I had shared this before with our board, the number of students that had withdrawn this year in comparison to other years also had a positive trend. So now how do we maximize from here? Clearly, given the circumstance of COVID, I really do think that we can still continue working towards ensuring that we can bring back every single one of our students. And a student that perhaps left us that feels comfortable and confident to return, this is the time to return. And we will make every accommodation to make that possible. So.
No, you're absolutely right, Ms. Anejo. It's a collective effort, and it's, you can get several hundreds in a class on some assignments, but as soon as you get that 70 that's going to just, so we have over the past handful of years, we've gotten some 70s, we've gotten some, so we gotta double up, and we just gotta fight to break back even. And then, so, but thank you for that. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Prado.
When we started advertising enrollment for PreK Head Start
yes.
a long time ago,
yes.
beginning of the year, I think.
Yes.
So do you have numbers as far as how many new pre-K Head Start students we have as of now that have enrolled? And do you have a breakdown on the students that are being enrolled? I'm assuming those are existing students.
Right.
And do you have new students maybe that have enrolled, a breakdown of what those numbers look like?
Yes, yes, and yes, Mrs. Prado. The pre-K, we started the roundups clearly with our pre-K 4, pre-K 3s, as you know, under our early grant. We're able to do that for our Head Start. We do have the specific numbers already for that, and we can definitely follow up to give you those. In addition to the students that were our 3-year-olds that are now 4-year-olds in Head Start, one conversation that we had, if we're maximizing those numbers, because again, it's May, we still have the rest of the summer to capture as many 3-year-olds as possible, shifting as many of our 4-year-olds out to our pre-K 4 that we're now enrolling. So that is new, and it's a different approach. Ms. Carmona Mercado has been phenomenal along with her team to accommodate as many 3-year-olds as we can. And this is our time to be able to do that. So yes, Mrs. Prado, I will follow up with that specific data. In addition to Dr. Carrillo in the REIS department does provide updates of students as we are registering them from month to month. To see those projected numbers as we're moving towards that, which is great. Again, last year, I believe we started a lot of this in July. So we were fast and furious trying to get as many of our students. It brings more awareness to that. And yes, we can definitely continue providing those numbers and updates to our trustees and our committee as well.
When we chose to go with the 3-year-olds, the reason.
Okay. The reason we started accepting 3-year-olds was so that we could keep them and they could transition into kinder, pre-K, kinder, and so forth. So that's another statistic I'd like to see. How many of those 3-year-olds have we registered to start the new year as pre-K?
As pre-K 4.
Pre-K 4.
Well, and we will have to provide you 2 sets of numbers, because if our 3-year-olds register with us for Head Start, they actually can remain in Head Start for 3 and 4. Okay. So we do have a set of 4-year-olds that remain in the Head Start program, and then we also have a set of 4-year-olds that remain in our pre-K 4 program. So you're going to see those 2 combined. And we have data where it shows the numbers where we consolidate our 4-year-olds from Head Start and our 4-year-olds from pre-K into one solid number.
Okay, so but we're keeping them. That's the main thing. We're not losing them. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, certainly one piece of all, the other bigger piece. I mean, thank you for that, Ms. Sendejo. Is there any other items under the 2020-2021 budget update?
I'm sure unless you have any questions, because you had time to view the document. Mr. Baum?
Yes, I do have just a little bit.
I'm sorry. Okay, through April, we were 90% collected on our taxes. So that leaves us May, June, and May and June, I guess, for additional collections. So
I think
that's a great question, and that's probably something that we can build into our ongoing expectation of work. So we'll work through that.
I think that's really good, because I think we usually end up at 98%, 95, 98 more or less for the end of the year. So I think we're on the right track. I'm glad to see that. I was really worried that it was going to drop significantly because of the COVID-19 and people not working. How are they going to pay their taxes? So
for sure. Mr. Raskow, I looked at that. If we see a $2 million reduction in tax collections beyond what we were expecting, state revenue to offset.
My big concern is if the economy doesn't recover, if we enter a true depression or recession, our collections will significantly decrease, which are going to affect our budget.
Yes,
absolutely.
So,
but in the formula, we will see.
Okay.
One of the ongoing would then be the decrease, which again could be problematic. But great question.
Thank you, Mr. Roscoe, Ms. Prado. The next item on the agenda is, fund balance projections. Ms. Alejo.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I did not forget to unmute this time. Yes, sir, you received a document with the fund balance analysis that Mr. Baum will also provide an overview on. Allotment, do you have it to project it? Or it's on it right there. Okay, Mr. Baum?
Yes, I wanted to do a quick fund balance analysis, and we really don't pay a tremendous amount of fund balance as a whole, except for in our audit and year end. It's kind of a phantom number. Lots of things, lots of things rolled in. I believe it was at the committee meeting we talked about fund balance and the stated desire to try to maintain somewhere between 2 and 3 months of operating expenditures. Now, as the budget goes up, as we spend more each month, then obviously you would want to index that fund balance number as well. If you're spending, just simple math, if you're spending $7 million a month, you would want $21 million in fund balance. If you're spending $8 million a month, you'd want $24 million in fund balance. So when our audit firm presented our external audit, I believe that was in January, our stated fund balance was $30.448 million. I just wanted to talk through the things that have hit fund balance this year thus far. Then there's one thing that is a recommendation for the board to take action on next week. But in the process of adopting the budget, we made some cuts that were then restored, and we ask you to amend the budget by that $1.2 million, which was done. That money was taken from fund balance, added back to the budget. And then in February, we came with an additional amendment of $2.7 million for some specific accounts, but also for some projects. And then we made a revenue adjustment. Now, the revenue adjustment I thought was important because it was certainly material. It was certainly significant with what was going on. That's not an adjustment that districts make on an ongoing basis, but given that it was the size that it was, I thought it was important that we go ahead and recognize that as a reduced revenue expectation. And so we adjusted our revenue figure down by the almost $3 million, which you see reflected in the current statement of revenues and expenditures by function. And then there is phase 2 of what is going on at West Campus. I think when we originally talked about this in the infancy of those phases, and Mr. Doucette Mike can speak to this as well, we had estimated that phase 2 was going to be about $800,000. That phase at this point, because of some technology and some other things that are added in and not budgeted within the current budget, we will ask at the next board meeting for an amendment of $1.165 million be done at that time, which would be an additional use of fund balance there. So you have the restoration of cuts, the February amendment, the revenue adjustment, and then the phase 2 amendment. Those are year-to-date amendments is 5.1 that we have asked for out of fund balance. And then we lowered our revenue projection by $2.3 million. So total decreases to fund balance once the board approves that recommended phase 2 amendment is about $7.4 million for the year, or about a 24% decrease in fund balance, which would take fund balance down to $23 million. At $7 million a month, it's we've still got sufficient fund balance at that point to cover that. That's assuming that, and we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it assumes that this year's budget is going to net out at a 0. We could see that there is an actual increase in fund balance, but we could also see a decrease, and we'll keep reeling that number as we go in. I still think of a past individual that I worked with that I always wanted to nail fund balance down every single time. And she kept reminding me, there's been a lot of smart people here before you that couldn't figure it out. So just give up, So I'm not quit yet. But we'll continue to rein that in. And then by the end of the fiscal year, I'll be able to tell you exactly what it is. So anyway, so at this point, based on action that has been taken, and then the one item that is suggested for or recommended for phase 2, we would be right at $23 million for our current fund balance. So, Chad, do you have anything to offer on the current the current item, the 1.165 million?
Sure, absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. So, as you know, back in January, you received a presentation from GBA with the phases and estimated costs allocated to those phases. With phase 2, we've kind of updated, and we got some firm numbers on actual costs and estimates of other items that are needed. So I just kind of put together just a one-page summary for me to give you some information. If you remember back in January, our campus student capacity for phase 2 renovations, when they're completed in August, would be about 335 students that would be housed in the 4 existing classrooms that we went through last year to start this year, and also the new 16 classrooms that were renovated that Mr. Rodriguez and Ms. Prado, you both saw the smaller areas that would take some minor, just we'll call it drywall and paint to get those classrooms occupied. So as I was looking at this, what we didn't consider in that original proposal, again, is the 200 classroom or the 200 seat science building that we have outside. So our initial estimates of year 2 here at West Campus of 335 students, if we consider the classroom space that's there for what that building was actually built for, a science room for biology, for chemistry, anatomy, dissecting and everything else, we could increase our student load by 200 just in the second phase of this. So that puts us right at about a capacity for 535 students to start in August. And that would use our 4 existing classrooms that we have downstairs from phase 1, the 16 additional that we've identified on our walkthrough, and 6 classrooms outside in the science building, and 3 lab spaces there too. So just something else to consider. We met one day to kind of talk the gym floor and everything, and I think we're all kind of heartbroken that the fact that we're not going to have an NBA size basketball court in there. But I tell you what, the proposals that we got, we're going to have a Class A facility to utilize there. So we've got the flooring estimate, the equipment, the scoreboards. We've got 3 vendors that we're working with, kind of getting not really a best and final, but give me your best shot and tell me what you've got. What can you do better than vendor A or vendor B? So we're still looking at those 3 proposals to get a firm number on that. The gym lockers for the locker rooms downstairs, we've got a vendor getting a proposal to me hopefully tomorrow to have those spaces renovated too. So as Jeff was saying, we're going to ask the board next Wednesday for 1.165 just for phase 2 here at West Campus to get those 16 classrooms and the gym. So if we get that, we can definitely move forward. Their contractors are ready. They want to come in tomorrow to take the local down to move over to Olivada. I said, no, we're going to got a board meeting next Wednesday, so we'll wait till Thursday to start on the process. Right. For phase 3 and phase 4, again, phase 3, we're looking at increasing the student load. We'll just call it the main building to 510 students plus the 200 outside. So by December of this year, we could realize classroom space for over 700 students. And then by the end of phase 4, we could realize classroom space for 960 students. And I think with some little, elbow room and everything, we could probably increase that student load here to 250 or to 1,000 students, which would give us approximately 250 students per grade level. So I think that 1.165 coming next Wednesday is going to do a lot of great things here in the time that we have. So be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yes, ma'am. Let's put it. If you're off mute.
Thank you for the information, Chad. I know you've done a lot of work.
Can you go back, because I was trying to take down the breakdown on the classroom.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Now I am?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you just give me the breakdown of the 16 classrooms that you were referencing? Are you saying that there are 16 classrooms in the science lab?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No. So the 16, if you remember from our walkthrough, we're talking about the technology classroom that we have being utilized over here right now. The 4 additional conference rooms that we have on the back side of the building. Obviously, the boardroom is going to be converted into a classroom space as well. The board conference room right behind us, for lack of a better term, the Sendejo's office and my office in there will be converted into a classroom as well. On the business and the HR and payroll side, we've also got some spaces identified over there that would give us a total of 16 classrooms inside the main building, plus the 4 additional that we have in place downstairs being utilized right now. So inside the main building at the end of phase 2, we would realize 20 classrooms of varying sizes. Again, some would be used for small group instruction. Some would be full-size traditional classrooms such as this. And then outside of the science building, we have 6 regular classrooms and 3 labs attached to those.
And do you anticipate phase 1 will be completed by the fall?
Phase 2?
I'm sorry, phase 2, excuse me.
At this point, we're crossing our fingers, yes, ma'am. I'll just have to say we may be 3 days behind just on the gym floor, kind of depending on where the contractors are. And as you know, summer's busy for everybody. So we're doing our best to get on there. We've got the estimate already done. It's just a matter of having a purchase order in place for them to execute.
And are you working together with GBA, with Garza Bomberger,
Yes,
on these projects?
Yes, absolutely. Just tell you, we got an email that was just a few minutes ago that was kind of concerning related to the permits here. So we've got some follow-up work to do now.
For this building?
Yes,
The permits at Olivares, those are done.
Mr. Rodriguez, a while ago, we've got our certificate of occupancy there. We actually have a punch list walkthrough tomorrow with the architects and the contractors. So we're going to do a lot of blue taping, nicks and scratches. We're going to get that fixed, and we'll start moving Monday as soon as we can.
Mrs. Prado, I want to go back to what you shared about asked about the 16 classrooms, because I know you and of course Mr. Rodriguez had some time to walk the halls, and the priority was to find those learning spaces. And we know that we had the conversation about potentially bringing in those temporary partitions that we felt that, well, what else could we do in adjusting the phases to ensure that, of course, then we're looking for the dollar amount that is attached to it, which still comfortably gives us what we need to begin the 2020-21 school year. However, in our conversations, we felt it was important to also share phase 3, phase 4, because of the amount that, of course, is attached to that, and then the timeline that has been presented. So that, alongside everything that has to do with budget, will put us in a place to come here and make a determination how feasible will it be, or what our thoughts are to ensure that we can provide what we need for our students moving forward. with our freshmen and our sophomore cohort that will begin this year. So, I mean, lots to consider, lots to reflect on, and it was important for you to all see. And all we did was revert back to the presentation that came to you all back in January with the timeline, with the specifics to the changes, and then of course the dollar amount to each of the phases.
So you're looking at phase two, some of the, like, I'll just use, we've got a break room and a storage room located next to each other. Minor renovation of that is basically just going to take out that center wall, do some VCT work on the floor, do some ceiling patchwork for the grid work and everything, add an outlet or two if we need to, and bring in some desks, and we got a 25 or 18 student learning space there.
Okay, I think, and Mr. Rodriguez, if I'm wrong, please tell me. I think when the phases were presented to us, by Garza Bomberger, at the time when we decided to open the campus, the important thing was to get it open so we could start the transitioning. And it was going to be one grade level at a time. We couldn't open it up as a high school. And thanks to Ms. Sendejo, we got our number for the high school. And so this is West Campus High School officially. Realizing that it was going to take money to complete all the phases. It's not something that, what we have now, we could actually complete it all. But when we budgeted and we met with our previous administration, we had allowed it. We knew that to get it open that first year, that the $6 million was going to be enough to get it open. We had that extra money. We had money in the workman's comp lots of money in the workman's comp that we didn't know was there, that we were able to use, as well as the, what's that other fund? The tax subsidy fund, which, by the way, keeps accruing, if I'm not mistaken. We keep getting that money in. It's twice a year. So we were able to do that successfully. We opened it, although it wasn't, as far as enrollment, it wasn't successful in that aspect. But I think we were able to accommodate the kids here. They seemed to be happy with smaller classrooms. They felt like it's just us here. We don't have to bother with the world. They got along real good with the teachers. So knowing that there's going to have to be 2 more phases besides 1 and 2, I think the discussion that the board has had was, at some point, once we opened West Campus and we proved to the community that we're giving you back your school, they took their school away from them, they would like to, and they wanted it open. And that's what the board accomplished. So by doing that, we felt that we could build their trust. We're giving you back what they took away from you. Now we need your help. And the way to get their help is to say, we did what you wanted, we opened your school, now we need you to pass a bond for us. So that was the thinking in the future, that we could do a bond proposal to finish out the other 2 phases and address the needs of all the other campuses as well. So back when Dr. Saavedra was here, we actually had formed that bond committee. Were you here, Chad? Remember? You weren't here? We formed a bond committee. We were looking at a $58 million bond, including opening West Campus. And then all of that fell to the wayside when TEA came in and they did the SAI. Nothing was done. But we were actually looking at $58 million, and that $58 million was going to address all the campuses. It was not just going to West Campus. So now with the opening of West Campus, I think, and I can't speak for Mr. Rodriguez, that's his district, Valley High. But I think they were pleasantly surprised to see it open. And I think a bond could probably do very well at some time so that we can finish funding this. Because I think we realize we can't take it all out of general fund. We never want to deplete our fund balance. That's just something we don't want to do. But, and then the projections on the student enrollments, by golly, I hope you're right. I would love to see that. As you know, the first year was not successful. And I think the phases was to make sure we had enough capacity for that large enrollment we thought we were going to get. That didn't happen. So I'm glad to see phase 2 is coming to its fruition, that they're going to have the gym, they're going to have the lockers, they're going to have everything they need. I think we need to see what is our enrollment? What's it going to be? Are we actually going to need to complete a phase 4 to accommodate 900 kids? I mean, I think it's one step at a time, but it's always good to know how much we're looking at, what the need is. And I appreciate you doing that for us.
And with if you remember, with the phase 4 is kind of the I'm sorry. If you remember, phase 4 was just kind of the addition of cafeteria space. Obviously, if we end up if we get a miracle, if somebody hits a home run and December of 2020, we end up with 710 students, the Blue and White Cafe as it is right now, we're going to be serving meals from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Phase 4 would be the addition of a cafeteria space. Either it's proposed downstairs where it is now, but possibly moving it upstairs. I think it was upstairs when the campus was open. So I can't speak for it. I've only been here for 2 years now. So, the renovation of the gym, creating the visitor side bleachers, as you know from our walkthrough, when the demolition was done, the bleacher spans were taken out. So we have the supports back there. It's going to take a lot of work.
Right.
I feel good that we can get the numbers. I really hope we do, just to make this viable. Because it's going to create West Campus again, and actually it's going to make me look pretty good.
Sure will. That's all I have, Mr. Rodriguez.
Just something to consider too, as we're doing this and we start phasing all of the departments out of here, we do have to lend consideration to our maintenance facility, our child nutrition, our transportation areas to get those into viable spots. And
I wasn't going to ask anymore, but he keeps giving me information. My mind is thinking, okay, I have this question. So let me what you just said about transportation and security. I think eventually we may have to move them out, but I think they're not bothering anybody. They're working just fine, the busing situation. And I think having security here is a plus. Kids see the security people in and out of here, and they tend, I think, to act a little better, knowing that right next door in the back, there's a security guard there, and he could come real quick if he was needed. So I think it's a plus. Maintenance, I don't think that's a problem, because they're down. I don't think that's interfering with anything as far as the school area. They're pretty much separate, unless you tell me they're not.
So proposals in phase 3 are going to actually occupy some of the warehouse space, and where where we have right now our records stored, and the special education storage area, our equipment that's going to be moved over to Olivares, but we still got that space there. So we will at phase 3 we will start having some encroachment onto the maintenance, the transportation area, and the child nutrition side too.
Okay. Now everything downstairs is in cages, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay.
It's all caged off, but once we start the renovation phase for there, again, that's kind of the phase 4 is the big one. Phase 3 is going to involve some HVAC work on the ground floor as well. So that's something else that we need to consider too.
Okay.
There is an impact, Mrs. Prado, to Shepherd and our academy there because of phase 2 of West Campus, and we are aware that our Shepherd Fine Arts Academy uses where we will be transforming that area into the locker rooms. That now we have to work on a potential space at Shepherd for the dance studio, and Mr. Doucette already working alongside with Mr. Becerra on getting those numbers so that we can come back and present. We knew that that would happen at some time, and the time is now for that, which is something that we can still take care of, that allows just coming on, building something, but modifying something within Shepherd, and more details to come there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Prado. Mr. Lesko, any questions? Well, I'm going to be a little more harsh. First, I'll start by saying that I'm glad that the board took action to with those two additional architect entities, right? It's been without fail, and if I'm looking at this wrong, somebody tell me. It's been without fail that GBA is supposed to be the architect, the expert architect of record for West Campus. They give us a dollar figure, and then they come back and tell us that it's something different. And this is what's being proposed for the board to consider next week, which is an additional cost to the $800,000 that they told us would cost to complete phase 2. So I haven't been happy with GBA, and I continue to be unhappy with GBA. So are they the expert architects for West Campus High School or not? The evidence points to me anyway, as one person, that they aren't. So you come to us and say it's going to cost $800,000 to complete phase 2, and now you're saying we got to go to the board for an additional $1.1 million. That is astronomical. That's 3 swings and 3 misses, big time. You ended the game on a whiff, right? With the bases loaded. I mean, I'm not happy about that at all. So my question is, have we sent out requests to the other architect firms to see that, hey, this is what GBA is telling us, what can you guys do? And how long would it take? Because to me, and you can let them know that I said that they're not getting it done. This is like the 3rd time that I get riled up when it has to do with GBA. So don't tell me that they are the expert architect of record for West Campus High School, because the evidence shows the contrary. I haven't seen them hit a shot from where they say they can hit the shots from. I mean, they've missed. I mean, way off. They're just way off. From $800,000 to an additional one, that's $2 million. That's double cost.
No, sir. So it's the 800,000 that you're speaking of again, and I'm not here to defend or to deflect anything. I just will point out that when they presented it in January, it was an 800,000 approximate. Mm-hmm. As you all know, for military time, approximate is 1 mile or 5 miles away.
But I also know that we've been under the cost for projects.
Yes, sir.
I know that also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the additional that I just spoke to also is taken into consideration. I pulled an estimate of $65,000 for the locker rooms. Again, we don't have a cost on that yet. That's just what I included in there as an estimate. The technology equipment and classroom equipment, the furniture wasn't included in the renovation cost that GBA was putting out. So again, not to defend anything. As I said, I've been here for 2 years. They were here, help us out. As far as reaching out to the other firms, no, sir, I haven't.
Right.
I'll tell you why is because if we do that, we're gonna delay the process even further, and also add an additional cost.
Right.
Because as you well know, architects are paid very well, and they do a good job for the money that they make. So I have not reached out to another firm yet. If that's something that you would like, that the board would like for us to do, I'm glad we do that. Just know that there would be a delay.
Right. No, I understand that. No, I fully understand. If we shift course, then it's going to take longer. I know we're going to have more costs. I get it. I just want them to be on point one time, just once. It's frustrating to, and then saying that you just received an email regarding permits. It's just we need to get this right. And as far as funding, yes, did we We laid out a plan. I think it was very thorough. That came with a $6 million tag on it. I think we're right there. We're not too far off. Certainly, we're investing in our potential people, right? So looking to increase our enrollment is something that we're going to use our PTech approach as well. All that works out the way it should to help us enrollment here, and then get to a place where we're viable, which is certainly why. And I don't want to revisit the whole thing, which is why the budget committee plan on reopening our campuses was very deliberate. It was very, we're articulated to the best of knowledge that we had, with the information that we can go out and find. With a $6 million price tag, opening our 3 of our campuses up, and then opening it up one grade level at a time, knowing that all of these items are going to have to get, addressed. So I guess I'm just making comments here. I just want GBA to hit a shot. Make a shot. Show me that you can hit the shot, and I won't get all wild because we're like Ms. Prado said, definitely. I let my community know. That's why I got it. We're going to open this school back up. This is what we're going to do. We're going to make it viable, and we're going to be successful. And it's going to contribute not only to our districts here, but to our district as a whole, right? Our districts here, 6 and 7, but our school district as a whole, which is what we're all aiming to do, is become more successful as a school district, right? With this just being one piece of that. So I just want somebody let GBA know that I want to see you hit a shot. I want to put you in the game. I want you to wrap up and make one time. Because you're telling me, and I see you putting the effort in. Get in the game and wrap up and tackle one time. I need you this play. I need you to make a play right now. Wrap up and tackle and make that play for me. That's what I need to do. Certainly, I'll just leave it at that. So, if there's any.
I was going to comment about, I'm glad you brought up.
I was unmuted. Just a comment, I'm glad that you brought up PTech, because yes, that is another potential opportunity for enrollment internally and clearly externally as well. I know I've had conversations with Ms. Prado before, and you in particular as well, on the 1882 or West Campus and PTech, as A&M has been. I mean, other options, I've recently brought it up to Mr. Baum as well, because we know it is another potential funding source and opportunity there for us to move West Campus forward. So they're all linked. There are some unknowns, but I know that it's still making that progress there. So did we clarify for you the 1.165? Yes. So it's a variance, yes, sir. Okay.
It's a 68% variance.
Right. It's still.
That's a big variance.
Yes, it's still up there.
This is 60, no, 68?
Closer to 40.
Mr. O'Hanlon wants to say something.
Guys.
Oh, is he? Mr. O'Hanlon? Right.
Can y'all hear me?
Mr. O'Hanlon, go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say that with this PTech coming in, because we have a planning year in terms of that, there will be, if you're just, the architect is going to be an integral part of this, because whatever the PTech grant designs with respect to the program, we're going to have to build the facilities to accommodate those uses. So phase 3 will be, and that's going to start real soon. So if you're dissatisfied with the architect, we're going to engage their services for the next round real soon. So if we're kind of late for phase 2, but if there's a move, then that needs to be done now, because we're about to get into the next phase, and there'll be some involvement with them. Because we're going to have to build whatever facilities with the plan, we're going to have to accommodate the uses that the PTech grant decides.
Right.
And Mr. Rodriguez, that has an August through December timeline as well. So doing this and making that decision, and that's not including the PTech planning year, because the PTech planning year is scheduled for 2020, 2021. So we wouldn't have anything in preparation to approve phase 3 with the timeline and commitment of what has been discussed in the past. They're not aligned. So I may require some additional conversation. I know Mrs. Sprout was saying, well, we can still accommodate and consider this in a bond, right? But we will need to know that because we did set timelines towards these phases to fulfill this process.
No, I entirely understand. But we have to be able to justify the costs.
Absolutely, sir.
So, and if the cost keeps increasing, and it gets harder and harder to justify, right? To go out and explain to our taxpayers, why does the price that keep rising, right? So that's where EDA, they need to get it together. They need to get it right. More often. That's my opinion.
And Mr. Doucette, you corrected me, it's 31%, not 68. Good catch.
So, board members, committee members, any other questions, comments on this item? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm a data guy, and as I look at this and look at facilities and look at finance, I see the time frame for completion of phases 3 and 4, and that's what gives me pause, because as we look at that, phase 3 is $1 million, and we anticipate having that done by December of 20, according to what was set out initially. So we're talking less than 7 months to completion on that. And then phase 4, we would take an additional 8 months to complete it and be done August 2021. Both phase 3 and phase 4 fall within the 2020-2021 budget year. So that's my concern, because we know that our revenue is tailing off. So to find a way to do that within our budget, I just don't see that as a possibility without huge programmatic changes, staffing changes, and I don't think that was the intent. Of course, I was not. Chad talked to his 2 years. I'm talking 2 weeks, right? But I do feel like, and the reason I wanted to bring this forward is if we are planning those, and Ms. Prado, the subsidy money that you talk about is just a little bit south of $1 million a year that we're receiving, and the fund balance amendments that we have done thus far has consumed that. So that those monies are not going to pay for it specifically. So I would like some guidance on how we are going to pay for that. And if it's fund balance, that's the board's prerogative, but I would like to assign that to where we at least know, as we look at a portion of our fund balance, that a portion of it is committed to this. Now then, when you assign fund balance, it doesn't mean you have to use it, but it's at least earmarking it. You would make a decision to reverse that out. But as we enter this next fiscal year, I think we should identify the way that we are going to pay for every single project that we anticipate doing. So that's why I brought it forward. And if it's the board's pleasure at some point to assign fund balance, I would love to do that.
Yes, sir. No, that's precisely the why we have these discussions and these meetings. So it looks like we'll have additional discussions so we can, answer all these questions, relevant questions that Mr. Baum just brought up. So.
Sir, can I just add, just one of the factors to consider too is with the compressed timeline that we've been operating with. The job order contract is a quicker way to get things done. So that's going to increase some of the costs versus being able to, excuse me, go out, go through the entire bid process and actually get deep in the weeds estimates on what it's going to take. So just bear that in mind. And again, part of that increase was the classroom equipment that was not included in just the renovation cost. So the classroom equipment, the gym equipment, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Doucette. Committee members, any other questions on this? I believe we were on number 3, right? The fund balance projections. We kind of went into number 4, right? On the capital projects. Okay, so on the capital projects, are there any items here that we want to bring up or that you want to speak to the committee about?
No, sir, we reviewed all of them through this one. We have the near-term priorities on there. They're listed for you. You do have a document there as well, which We are fully aware of those, but just really wanted to bring up to light for us as we move forward in decision.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it there.
Yes, ma'am. Certainly, some eye openers here, right? So,
And I believe that's what Mr. did speak about, which makes sense of us probably considering.
And I think, if I may, Mr. Rodriguez, I want to speak to that list, but I just want to make a comment for the record, because I want the record to reflect that the phase 2 increase is not $1 million. It's only 265,000, something like that. So I don't want it to go on the record saying phase 2 is actually 2 million instead of $1 million. So I just want to clarify that, just for the record. Yes. I don't know if it's the same list or not. I guess I could look at my file cabinet and see if I have it. This is a list that, not this one, but there was a list generated, and Chad would know, originally by Dr. Flores when he was here. It was kind of like a wish list, I think, that all the campuses submitted. In fact, it was very detailed. And I don't know if this is it or not, but
no, ma'am. The wish list you were referring to was kind of if we had $3 million, what would we do? And again, each campus kind of gave us input on, or provided input on what would be beneficial. My heart wraps around campus marquees.
Yeah, a lot of that.
You drive by Armstrong and you
This
see
is mainly facilities projects and facilities needs.
Yes, ma'am.
We need to start addressing, and I think Mr. Rodriguez will probably agree with me. It bothers me or concerns me that it's come to this, where obviously in previous years, we've not kept up with the facilities the way they should be. Although some of these probably because of the age, I can see here, it's time. It's probably past time, and we need to address them. Now, do we need to address them all at one time? You're looking at 7 million, but is this not something that, let's prioritize it and see where's the biggest need, which projects can we actually use? We have fund balance money, hopefully, that we could start on, take one at a time and get them done until maybe there's a possible bond, but we need to start working on the ones that really need it bad. So I think prioritizing which ones are dire need, which ones are still functional, but eventually going to have to be replaced. And that's just my opinion.
So I'll just say from my perspective, if that's the approach that the board would like to take, then I would suggest that we probably focus on the projects that have been in the deferred status, if you want to call it that, the longest.
Absolutely.
Again, that may be that one project made up a big portion of what the board's going to budget for that, but you've got a roof that's 3 years old and it's leaking pretty bad. Could potentially develop a safety concern with that for the kids in there too. So
And that CTE center, it should be demolished and a new one should be built. Absolutely. It is so old and so outdated. It really does. It needs it badly. And that was one of the things that I was kind of hoping in a bond, that maybe we could have a new CTE building for the kids. But we can't continue to let this fester and continue. We have to fix the roofs, whether we like it or not. But ultimately, a new CTE facility is what this district needs.
If I might add, there are 1,103 districts in Texas. Oh, he's talking to you. Mute your microphone, sir. I'm gonna have to recall that same number. If there are 1,143 districts in the state of Texas, I don't know if there are. There are 1,143 that have deferred maintenance issues. Even if you open a brand new building, you start deferring maintenance. You start kicking cans down the road. And the wish list that you spoke of is when we go out and say, hey, what would you like done? The campus principals if their air conditioner is on, it's on, and they're okay with it. They can't tell you typically the age of that. They don't know that those systems are 18 years old. And when you have a machine, when you have a system, you can take a 97 Suburban, and every stinking one of them are going to have odometer issues. It's just a system. It's just gonna happen, and you can get on and read. And air conditioning units are very much the same. There's not a unicorn that lasts for 47 years. When they start going, they start going. And Mr. Becerra and his team, they're responsive to things that collapse on us and that have to be done. But we as a district have not done a particularly good job of setting funds aside and being proactive. And when resources are scarce, that's the way it goes. And again, we're not the only one with these issues, but I bring this forward so it will be on our radar, and perhaps we can allocate some more recurring monies. Not a bond is a one-time shot in the arm. We can't raise a big enough bond to fix everything. It would help. But we need to find a way to infuse additional monies into those budgets to where we can empower that team to go forth and fix the things that are there. Because under our current scenario, if we want to redo just the chiller at Carrillo, for instance, that's a $330,000 project. Then we've got to come forward and ask about that project, and then it gets prioritized. And there are competing forces about what we do when. And I think that would be hugely beneficial if we had the facilities committee that we talked about. I'm not sure who it was. Maybe might have been Peter Drucker. I don't know. But what gets measured gets done, and I think we need to have this as a recurring measure that we look at and try to make some ground up. We had talked about commissioning TASB to do a full-scale facility study, and again, this is just a drop in the bucket to what we can speak to. There are lots of unknown issues. Until we go out and we seek those issues out, we're not going to know what they are. But just as many things with COVID-19, they got pushed back in that process. But I think that is knowledge is power, and we need to know the things that are going on with our facilities and reel them in. We can do a better job and be proactive as opposed to being reactive. So it just takes resources, right? But
if I can interject here. You weren't here, Chad. I don't think anybody was but me. When we did the bond committee, there was and I have everything. I have this huge layout that was done. It was an assessment of each campus. It showed what the capacities were, what the student enrollment. It showed the life of the HVAC, when the building was built. It had all of that information, and it's nice and in color. I'll be glad to share it. It's huge. I have several copies of that. And somebody here should have it. That's what bothers me. Where are all those documents that should be here from that 2010 bond committee? They should be here someplace. So they've disappeared. But it's huge, and it's got all the information for every single campus. And I also have, from way back, an Excel sheet of every campus and when they were built, when the wings were built. It gives you everything. I have dates going way back to 68, way back then. So that's stuff that I've kept that are just in my file cabinet right now. But if it's useful, I'll be glad to share it. I'll give you one of those copies. But that tells you when the HVAC unit was installed, how old it was, and that's for every single building in this district, all of them. So, and it just bothers me that none of that is here, and we spent a lot of time getting that done.
Well, I visited in compiling this list, and these were gleaned from a presentation.
These items were gleaned from a presentation from more than a year ago, I believe. And so there will be things that have revealed themselves since. But there were two roofing projects. Let's see here, the Palo Alto roof and the Kindred roof. That cost that were not given in that presentation. Mr. Becerra was able to look at the square foot of the roof and the estimate of the cost. So, we have that data in facilities. It probably would be great to review what you have and make sure that we have that comprehensive set of data.
I'll get that to you, Chad.
Absolutely, because that would also help ask people to really study kind of some of the preliminary work on there.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
Mr. Roscoe, any comments? If I may, certainly, I'm the first one to say, once you get in the seat, you get in the seat and you own it. You own it from that day forward, and you know everything that's happened before you sat in that seat. I'm the first one to stand in line and say, I'll take it on, I'll be responsible, because we have to be accountable to our taxpayers who are listening in and watching on what we're doing collectively as a team, right? Whether it's the board and the superintendent and including her team and the administration. But I think it's important. I think it's important to understand that, and I'm going to go way out here. I'm going to go way out on a limb here. If this board had not pursued the initiative of reopening campuses, would we be having these conversations? And I'm going to make a point here. Would we be having these conversations about roofs and facilities and things that have deferred maintenance that has just gone on and on and on? My answer is no. We wouldn't be. My point is that yes, we own it. It belongs to us now. We're going to collectively work to get things done. But it got to this point somehow. Somebody was in charge, and somebody let this thing get to the mess that it is today. And I think our taxpayers who are listening in, either not now live, they might go back and listen because they do. I need to understand that. And I'm the first one to say that we own it, and we're going to do everything that we can to be responsible fiscally and to address all the needs of our school district. But I would feel irresponsible in not saying that this is something that should have been addressed years ago. I mean, years ago. And had the board not pursued the initiative of opening campuses, I dare I say that we wouldn't be having these conversations right now. We'd be talking about 35-year-old roofs at some point. Which is a tragedy in itself. But Shirley, sign me up to be on the facilities committee if that's the will of the board, and I'll be glad to tackle these issues and have those tough conversations and participate in those in that collaboration on making those hard decisions. Absolutely, because it's in the best interest of our school district, and it's our fiduciary responsibility to make those hard decisions, whatever those wind up being. So I just want to make it clear that I own it. I'll be the first. I'll lead from the front. I own it, and let's tackle the issues and let's get it resolved. But we'd be negligent in not letting our taxpayers know that this didn't pop up overnight. This didn't pop up over the course of the November of 2018. These have been underlying issues that have gone unaddressed, and we are taking the responsibility to take them on, and we will. Wholeheartedly, without fail. I just want to make that clear.
Gilbert.
The next item on the agenda is the 2019. Okay. Dr. Gruppel, yes, sir.
Could I just say a quick little piece here? It's so good to be sitting here and watching you guys work as a team on problems that, as you have brilliantly described them, problems that did not come up overnight or over 10 years, as a matter of fact. They've come up over a much longer time than that, but it is time, as you and I have discussed off air. It is time to address those things. And you may have to, the old eat an elephant one bite at a time deal. You may have to take one bite at a time. But it's important that we start taking the bites. And the spirit that you've shown here today is not the first step you've taken, but in my opinion, it's a really big step and a really positive step. So I'm going to, on behalf of everybody in South San Antonio ISD, say thank you for your efforts, and let's continue them. And nobody can stop you if you're working together in the spirit that you've shown today. And you will be proud of yourselves in 2 to 5 years from now if you keep after it. All of you are doing exactly what you should be doing. That's my opinion. I wasn't paid to say that or anything like that, but thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gropo, and certainly I can speak on behalf of the Budget Committee and the Board of Trustees and the Superintendent. Thank you to you and your team, certainly Jeff Baum, and just everybody, Chad, Mr. Doucette, just everybody that's been involved to this point that shows with action, their commitment and their desire to do what's right and make decisions in the best interest of our school district. So thank you very much for that. The next item on the agenda was the 2019-2020 CARE Zone update. Ms. Sendejo?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I'm unmuted. Thank you. I provided our committee with just the background of the historical pieces, the need. As we know, we celebrated by opening our CARE Zone last fall, and by far has been such an opportunity for our students, for our family, our community, our staff, our administrators have maximized and utilized it. We've had from congressmen to the mayor, I mean, we have had the opportunity to embrace so many stakeholders out there to come and visit and learn about our CARE Zone and our support. As we know, we have 6 particular entities that are a part of this initiative alongside others that we've had in place for some time. Now they all get to live together, and also striving towards the opportunity to mobilize this within our district, which we are, it's strengthening that. And this document allows just that background of this academic school year and what's to come. We want to continue this, which would allow us to have some conversations and consider what type of commitment our district can make to continue the doors to be opened for our community moving forward. So the last page in the document, it shares just the specifics of the fiscal year from 2019-2020, where we had funder contributions, the agencies that contributed to this, and now having conversations about what as a district we can do to continue to sustain this alongside. Anytime we can provide that commitment, it allows for other foundations to consider donating as well. The goal is, and I've shared this with Mr. Baum, so I'm hoping that we can have additional extensive conversations and have another presentation here next week from one of the CEOs with all the specific data and all the numbers and services that we've been able to support, to consider 100,000 as part of this next year's budget, which will assist us to share, again, the commitment of our district alongside the agencies, of course, and the funders that are continually supporting us. First year, not a full year, and add COVID in between that. We have been extremely creative as to how we've considered providing the services consistently every single day. We are in the hundreds of students that we've been able to support and families throughout these last 8 months. I don't want to steal too much of that thunder next week because we do have a comprehensive report for you all, along with the rest of the Board of Trustees. We really felt that it was important to bring this to the Budget Committee as it is part of our family, our South End family, the CARE Zone is. And it is by far spearheading a lot of what we're doing when we think about mental health, and especially everything that we've encountered and we're facing during COVID. So just really an opportunity to give you some background and bringing it forward here in the near future as we present the budget here in the next couple of months. And any comments or any questions specifically to what I shared with you, it's just really, again, a synopsis of our year, and I'm really excited about it. Thank you, sir. That's all I have on that one.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Sendejo. Committee members, any questions?
I have none, but I look forward to the presentation.
Thank you. Ms. Tally Doggo will be with us next week to present, and we'll have specific data to share with you. I really do think you'll be one, surprised, and also just appreciative of everything that has come through our zone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. So if I heard you correctly, it's going to be the intent for the board to consider a $100,000 contribution?
Yes, sir. So once,
okay.
Yes, so once we, Mr. Vaughn, and of course, after going through each of the departments, the zoning one that is included, in speaking to our team, it just felt right to bring it because it is it's a new initiative to us, that many others are observing as well. And I'm talking fellow districts, surrounding districts, as to how this would look when you actually have a full building of these types of services. I tell you that amount does not touch at any level, but we know that it will help other funders to contribute if we are making a commitment there. I mean, I don't know, Mr. Vaughn will surprise me and say you can have 200,000. Just leave it at that.
Certainly, no, I entirely agree. I know this will have my full support as one trustee and one budget committee member. I think it's important to continue this initiative. You know, the circumstances under which this was brought to this board's attention for a while there had me pretty restless at night, right? But then you accept it, you come to grips with it, and then I did make determination that it was meant to happen that way. If it was meant for all of our students to collectively cry out for the board to take action, then that's what it took, and this board took action. And I think I can speak for the board where we are going to do everything that we can to continue to support the mental health needs of our students. So that's my piece. And I certainly look forward to the presentation.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Committee members, any final thoughts, questions, inquiries that you may have? All right, then do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Rascal, second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 5:42. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Just give us a few more minutes here and then our meeting will come to order. The special called meeting of the South San Antonio ISD Board of Trustees will now come to order. Today is Wednesday, May 13th, 2020, and the time is 6 p.m. Michelle, if we can have a roll call, please.
Stacy Alarete.
I'm sorry, and the time is 6:04 p.m. I'm sorry.
Present.
Gilbert Rodriguez.
Present.
Connie Prado.
Present.
Shirley Ibarra Peña.
Present.
Homer Flores.
Here.
Kevin Orozco.
Present.
Veronica Barba.
Present.
Thank you, Michelle. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, Texas pledge, prayer, and our call to action.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas pledge: honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to one state under God, one and indivisible. Please bow your head in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for keeping us healthy during this time. We are meeting here today to continue working for our students and our families. Give us the guidance to make the best decisions for our community. Please watch over us and keep us safe and healthy so we can meet again. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Call to action. All students
make decisions on enabling their lives in the future they create.
Thank you, Ms. Collier. Thank you, board members. The first item on the agenda is executive session. The board trustees will proceed into closed meeting pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, and 551.0821. Item number 1, Texas Government Code 551.071, advice from school lawyer. Texas Government Code 551.074, personnel matters. Items number 2, discussion of interim superintendent's recommendations for board action on employment contract renewals, proposed employment term contract non-renewal, termination of probationary contracts, and offers of new employment contracts, including both Chapter 21 contracts and non-Chapter 21 contracts. Item number 3, discussion with district search consultant concerning superintendent search, and the time is 6:06.
So next.
I'm muted.
I'm not.
We will be reconvening into open session here momentarily, folks. Thank you for your patience.
Mr. O'Hanlon, can you hear me? Okay, everybody's muted right now. That's why you're not hearing anything, but we should be good to go in just a minute.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm on. You can hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay. Okay. The Board of Trustees will now reconvene back into open session. The time is 7:43. The next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action. Item number 1, discussion and possible action on the interim superintendent's recommendations for board action on employment contract renewals, proposed employment term contract renewal, non-renewals, terminations of probationary contracts, and offers of new employment contracts, including both Chapter 21 contracts and non-Chapter 21 contracts. Thank you, Mr. Allotment. At this time, the board, the chair will entertain any motions, and the chair actually has a motion to make. My motion is that that the board terminate the non-Chapter 21 contract for James Schuman for reasons outlined by council. Do I have a second? I have a second by Ms. Alvarez. Michelle, can you get a roll call, please?
Can I recommend that this is a public determination?
No.
Ms. O'Hanlon, if you can turn your speakers down a bit.
With respect to students,
I didn't hear what he said.
Yeah, he got it.
Was he trying to say something, Mr. Rodriguez?
Yeah, but trying to make a recommendation. I think you're not muted or Ms. Bro is not muted. Okay.
I'm sorry, try that again, Mr. O'Hanlon.
You're still on, that's fine.
if we're talking about children, I recommend a proposed termination.
Gotcha. So the motion would be to propose the termination of James Schuman's non-Chapter 21 contract. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Ms. Alvarez. Michelle, we can get a roll call, please.
Stacy Alderete,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ani Prado,
Yes.
Julie Ibarra Peña,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Evan Roscoe,
Yes.
Veronica Barba.
Yes.
Motion carries. Are there any other motions on this item?
Mr. President, I have a motion.
Ms. Alvarez has a motion.
I would like to make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendations except for the following: Ruperto Becerra Jr., Alberto Fidel Ariano.
I have a motion by Ms. Alvarez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Shirley Ibarra Peña. Michelle, we can get a roll call, please.
Stacy Alderete,
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ani Prado,
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra Peña,
Yes.
Homer Flores,
Yes.
Kevin Roscoe,
Abstain.
Veronica Barba.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the discussion and possible board action to select a superintendent sole finalist. At this time, the chair will entertain any motions.
Yes, Mr. President. I would like to make a motion that we name Mark Twig as the lone finalist for superintendent of South San Antonio ISD.
Thank you, Mr. Roscoe. I have a motion by Mr. Roscoe. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Veronica Barba. Is there any discussion? Mr. Flores, you recognize her?
Oh, thank you. Mr. President, I appreciate it. I just want to say a couple of things. One is thank you for the superintendent search team for presented us with a number of candidates, and from the time that we were starting back in December or so till now, it's been interesting because of the COVID-19, all those things, and so I'm glad that we've come to resolve on it. I will say that I was in support of another candidate, and I believe that all my might and everything I believe in was with Henry Zaguirre, and that he's a community member. I supported him, and I appreciate all the other candidates and all their presentations, but I will say on record that I was for somebody else. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Any other board members want to have discussion? I will. Certainly, I want to echo Mr. Flores' comment on the process for our superintendent search. I'd like to also thank our superintendent search team for bringing forth some really great candidates. I want to thank all of the candidates that applied and wanted to take on the challenge of leading our school district going forward. I think that it's speaks volumes of the character of those individuals that are willing to step into that role. Having said that, through the interview process in our conversations and our Q&As with Dr. Mark Puig, I feel that this is the best candidate for our school district. Certainly his accomplishments to date speak for themselves. In my conversations with Dr. Mark Puig, he welcomes the challenge of leading our school district going forward. He fully understands and supports the board's vision of having our school district be one that leads from the front, one that evolves into a school district that other school districts can point to going forward. And certainly that's going to resonate down through the staff and into the students in our classrooms, which is why we all do what we do every single day. So I just want to thank my fellow board members, my colleagues, for going through this process. It was certainly a different one, right? I know it was my first superintendent search, but given that part of it was virtual, was definitely a welcome part of that. So I believe that we have Dr. Mark Puig with us this evening. Dr. Puig, can you hear me? Okay, let's give him a second to see if he wants to join and say a few words.
Take the vote first.
Okay, I think I'm back on.
There you are, Dr. Puig. Mr. Allotment, is there any way that we can get his on the screen there for everyone to see?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, right.
Dr. Puig, if you can just,
Dr. Puig, if you can just hold on for a second. We have a motion and a second. So Michelle, we can get a roll call, please, first.
Absolutely, sir. Miss Stacy Alderete?
Yes.
Gilbert Rodriguez?
Yes.
Connie Prado?
Yes.
Shirley Ibarra Peña?
Yes.
Homer Flores?
No.
Kevin Roscoe?
Yes.
Veronica Barba?
Yes.
Motion carries. Dr. Puig, congratulations. You've just been named the lone finalist, the superintendent for South San Antonio Independent School District. At this time, Dr. Puig, I'd like to afford you the opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you, President Rodriguez and trustees. I am incredibly honored and humbled and thrilled to serve alongside you for the benefit of the children of South San. It's an incredible opportunity. You all have established tremendous momentum with Mrs. Sendejo and your team. You all have done an amazing job, and it's just a privilege to serve alongside you, and I'm looking forward to it. And let's get to work.
Yes, sir, Dr. Puig. We certainly appreciate your enthusiasm.
Thank you.
And let us be the first to welcome you to our family and let's roll up our sleeves and let's do great things for our kids.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, trustees.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion by Ms. Alderete. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Shirley Barapena. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:53 p.m. Good night, everyone. Thank you for participating.